House Democrats has impeached President Trump, and now they are having 2 articles of impeachment. Nancy Pelosi said that after the impeachment, maybe she'll sit on the articles of impeachment before sending it over to the Senate. But according to Senator Ted Cruz, in a recent interview with Fox News, he thinks this delay is a sign of weakness. This is a sign Pelosi understands just how weak the articles of impeachment they actually voted on are. The House Democrats haven't alleged any high crimes and misdemeanors, and much less, they haven't proven anything. And so now, Pelosi is in a situation that she knows when it goes to the Senate, it's going to be a fair trial. The Senate is going to get both sides the opportunity to present their case. They're going to protect due process. But Pelosi also knows the results of a fair trial, which is that the articles of impeachment are going to be thrown out because they haven't met the Constitution. Senator Ted continued to describe what it's going to look like in the Senate trial.
The Senate impeachment rules prohibit any senator from speaking in open session. In other words, when the TV cameras are on.
The trial will start in early January. It will start with the Chief Justice of the United States swearing in all 100 senators. It will then shift to the House managers presenting their case, and that probably takes several days. Because they'll stand up, they'll walk through evidence, they'll make arguments, and then it will shift to the White House, which is the defense team, for the president making their case. And the president is going to have a full and fair opportunity to defend himself. And then it will shift to questions. Now it might be expected that we're going to see a bunch of senators asking questions in the Senate. But according to the Constitution, the Senate impeachment rules prohibit any senator from speaking in an open session. In other words, which is when the TV cameras are on. So we are not going to see Elizabeth Warren or Ted Cruz or any senator going 15 rounds on the Senate floor. The senators are going to be sitting quietly in their desks, and they can only submit questions. But the questions have to be in writing, and the questions then will be handed down, and the Chief Justice asks questions from the senators. At this point, it's going to be likely a recess, and it's possible one of 2 things will happen. First, perhaps it's going to be like the majority of the Senate will move forward and vote that the House Democrats haven't met their threshold. They haven't come close, so let's reject the claims. Secondly, there could be a procedural fight about the need of more evidence and even more witnesses, in which case that question is decided by 51 senators, every legal question. The Chief Justice can be ruled in the first instance, but the Chief Justice can be overruled by 51 senators. According to Ted, John Roberts, Chief Justice of the United States, is very likely to follow the rehnquist president and just refer the procedural questions to the Senate, which means if 51 Republicans agree, we can resolve any legal issue. And that means if the president wants to call Hunter Biden, if the president wants to call the whistleblower, due process mandates that we allow the president to defend himself, to make his case. As far as we know, what House Democrats have alleged is not a high crime or misdemeanor. Their articles are weak. The first article is just this vague abuse of power, which, by the way, is the maladministration. It's literally the term that was rejected in the Constitutional Convention. That plainly doesn't meet the constitutional threshold. The second article is even weaker, which is obstruction of Congress. And funny enough, people are used to know obstruction of justice, which is a crime, is a serious felony. But the House named it obstruction of Congress because they couldn't prove obstruction of justice. Bill Clinton was impeached on obstruction of justice. Richard Nixon was going to be impeached on obstruction of justice. But the basis for their so-called obstruction of Congress claim is that the president aids in the executive exerted privileges. House Democrats are firing these matters the wrong way. Their assertion is simply claiming a privilege, which is an impeachable offense. If that was true, all 55 presidents, going back to George Washington, every one of them would have committed impeachable offenses.